Andrew and Tristan Tate are polarizing figures. Most people who matter are. They have become the icons of resistance to the woke mind virus. You will find people who love them and people who hate them no matter what they do. Rationalizations will be made based on psychological reasons, not objective evidence. Certainly the Tate brothers have been targets for character assassination. Most people, if you got to comb through their life, including their cell phone records and private conversations they've had on the internet or with girlfriends, could be made out to look bad. I'd like to see any congressman go through the same level of privacy invasion. Something even some of the haters will begrudgingly admit is that there is no doubt, guilty or not, this entire affair is politically motivated. Given the track record of false allegations by the far left and deceitful extensions of intel agencies like the criminal ADL, caught spying on U.S. police departments and aiding both terrorists and organized crime, or Bellingcat, an anti-Russia, anti-Syria Zionist outfit that created the ridiculous stories about Skripal and Litvinenko, who are also busted working with the BBC and Zinc Network on fostering regime change as well as targeting Muslims, that nothing they say about the Tates can be trusted. The screed of anti-Taters are a bunch of nameless, faceless, online trolls. That's the bulk of them. False rape allegations were made by the corporate media towards Julian Assange and Donald Trump. The two men have little in common other than being a threat to the swamp. Like Trump, the Tates were first blanket banned from social media at the behest of the ADL. When that didn't work, the false allegations were made. The brothers were held under custody for the maximum time allowed before charges were made. They were finally released to house arrest and then later confined to Romania. Two of their female employees had similar fates. And when the BBC hatchet job Lucy Williams was sent to conduct a smear piece, she couldn't help but reveal her real motivation when she spoke about a fancy car, a cigar, and a side order of misogyny. Which, by the way, just sounds exactly like a line some 3-inch pencil dick liberal would get excited about. Side order of misogyny. I bet it sounded really cool in the dork room. Identity politics. Essentially, you're guilty because I don't like you. This has been down the board. People are clipping things that one of the Tates said that they think is bad or offensive, but I'm not interested in whether or not you like or don't like what they say, or whether or not it is out of context or in context, because what is at stake is only what is legal and illegal. We're talking about people's freedom. Value judgments really don't matter. Webcam businesses are not illegal, neither are casinos. So what you think about them personally is irrelevant. You have to look at specifics. Lucy, like a lot of bitter beta men and women, is part of condemnation culture because it doesn't require any positive self-attribute to join. All one has to do is not do things. Any loser can just declare their superiority by simply labeling whatever they hate with some stigma. Truth be damned, because betas operate based on whatever is psychologically gratifying and not on what is actually true. In fact, they often have a very hard time with reality. Nietzsche called it the slave morality, which today might be better understood as the slave mentality. The opposite of this doesn't have to be an Übermensch, only to possess the ability to become an Übermensch via the master morality or the hero mentality, what Bruce Lee called the self-willed man. The bitter man looks at success of another with envy, jealousy, and hatred. The self-willed man looks at success of another with inspiration, admiration, and eventual emulation. When looking at the specifics of a case where people could be fined, jailed, have their reputations destroyed, it is important not to let this affect one's judgment. the Tates were hit up with a wrap-up smear. Here's a swamp creature to explain what that is.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, you call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and they'll say, see, it's reported in the press that this, and this. So they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic, and it's self-evident.
This is what Bellingcat and the ADL do. They create garbage. They have willing journalists reiterate the falsehoods to validate them. Then they, the swamp creatures, quote the press in what is essentially their own garbage. They did this to Dr. Ron Paul with all the rhetoric about racist newsletters. The truth was, they did not want an anti-war candidate who was very popular with the youth to be in the race for president. They did this to Joe Rogan when he dared to question the Church of St. Fauci. They even went as far as putting a filter on his face to make him look sick and told people that he took horse dewormer.
I got better quick. Nobody cared that I got better quick. All they cared was I didn't get vaccinated. What's the best way to shame him? Let's point to this one thing that he took and mock this person for taking this foolish medication. They even changed the color of my face on CNN. I put a video up of me saying that I had to cancel shows. Dave Chappelle and I had a big concert coming up that weekend, and I said we have to postpone it because I have COVID. In the video, I was like, I feel fine. I had COVID 3 days ago. I had one bad day. The second day I felt pretty good. Today I feel great. All they wanted to talk about, like constantly, every hour, was me taking horse dewormer.
The truth is, they didn't want someone going against the system who was very popular with the youth. They attacked Roger Waters and RFK Jr. with the ever tiresome accusation of anti-Semitism. Once again, the singer of Pink Floyd, Anna Kennedy, are both against the grain and very popular with the youth. It appears the Uniparty is now after Russell Brand, who has blown up on Rumble and is politically against the grain and very popular among the youth. Noticing a pattern here? Who else do we know with a lot of reach that is very popular with the youth? The wrap-up smear doesn't even have to result in convictions. It is a tool of character assassination to harm people financially, get them banned off social media, or even sway elections. None of these people were proven guilty of anything. In Rogan's case, the day after he had a doctor on to counter the COVID-19 hysteria, they used AI to comb through all of his podcasts to find incidences of the N-word completely out of context, to label him a racist. Fortunately, he's so well known that that kind of smear didn't stick. Roger Waters financed the Gray Zone, a mortal enemy of Bellingcat. Assange was obviously a political target. And in the case of Dr. Paul, RFK Jr., and Donald Trump, it constitutes election interference. The Tates and Brand have enough influence to sway an election. And Biden has proven the swamp's thoughts about this by hiring TikTok armies for White House propaganda. Of these men, perhaps Julian Assange gets the brownie, but all of them were targets for challenging the Uniparty. Another man who got hit by AIPAC with relentless defamation was Jeremy Corbyn. It was so bad that Al Jazeera did a documentary about how bad the lobby was. Oddly, actual traffickers and worse, from Woody Allen to Roman Polanski, Jimmy Savile to Jeffrey Epstein, Schofield or the other Andrew, Prince Andrew, seem to get a media pass. Yet Andrew Tate, like Socrates, is guilty of rejecting the state gods, Fauci and Zelensky, and of corrupting the youth because he told them to work out. Being half black, the race card accusation wouldn't make sense, so they chose sexual impropriety. The charge against his brother is even dumber, a multimillionaire shaving off TikTok earnings. The Tate indictments accuse them of forming a criminal organization engaged in human trafficking and rape. Sounds terrible, but just note that this is the same media that still says Diagolon, a fictional country created by a meme that connects the red states in America with that of Canada, is a far right-wing militia involved in the trucker convoy against COVID-19 in Canada. It was a meme created in a podcast with Jeremy McKenzie, an internet comedian and podcaster. They also have a mascot that's a time-traveling goat that does cocaine named Philip. But you see, the media needs witches to burn. That is how 4chan was able to get the press to turn the OK hand gesture into a symbol of white power. Basically, the media saw a picture of a bunch of Canadian veterans with masks and guns, and they lost their minds. Hello, it's Canada. People hunt and shoot stuff with guns. Some of these men were jailed. It was absolutely over nothing. No one was far right. It wasn't a secession movement. It was a joke about how it is neat that the cool states happen to form a diagonal line. That is all. I've had Mackenzie on my show. I know these people. They are harmless, but this is how Canada and the press are. We can see the same thing in the United States, where the president labeled the January 6 protesters, many of whom were COINTELPRO, as violent white supremacist insurrectionists. It clearly was not an insurrection, for no one brought weapons, and it had absolutely nothing to do with race. Of course, Joe Biden called Kyle Rittenhouse a violent white supremacist. We also saw how a fight between Antifa and the Proud Boys in New York, which Antifa started and lost, that no one from the communist group was even subpoenaed, and yet the Proud Boy members were jailed. And most recently, we have people not even at January 6 being sentenced from 18 to 22 years. It is unabashed political witch trials. So what does organized crime ring, human trafficking, and raping women really mean? It means little other than using dating apps to find attractive girls to date, employ, or both, and fly them to your location. That is how this generation is. They grew up with dating apps, and it is no longer a weird way to meet people. No one got raped. No one was held against their will. No one was trafficked. The fact that women were living near and by and working with the Tates and living with the girls who came over to use TikTok to promote their OnlyFans, things they were already doing before seeing the Tates, and that no one had a bad thing to say, shows this is the result of false allegations.
Influencer Andrew Tate has been arrested in Romania on suspicion of human trafficking,
rape, and forming an
organized crime group.
I had lived with Andrew for years and years, and he would never do anything like this. He is not a human trafficker. He would never rape anybody. I'm just so shocked, and I'm so fed up with all of these lies, and he does not deserve any of this.
First of all, I'd like to start by saying that there are no victims in this case. It all started April last year in 2022 when two girls that lived in my home with me locked themselves in their room and claimed to be held there hostage. But here's the fact. When the authorities and the police raided our homes, they forgot to mention that the key was in their room, on their bed. The police know that there was no crime, and they are holding the Tate brothers locked with no evidence because they think it's good for Romanian politics. Now, the other two victims that the police claim to be involved in this case are me and Beatrice. We have been given 3 statements clearly saying we are not victims, but our statements keep getting thrown away. The police don't care about the truth. Instead, they choose to listen to 2 girls that went on a luxurious vacation on the French Riviera a week or 2 after being rescued for whatever they claimed to be. Another fact is that the police threw away the surveillance footage from the house because they don't consider it evidence that proves that those girls were able and were going for walks. They were going out of the house with their phones whenever they wanted, wherever they wanted. We want justice.
To see what's happening right now, it makes me extremely upset.
I can say now with confidence
that these guys are not capable of such nonsense, what police says and news say. I'm Ukrainian refugee. It was Tristan who helped not only me.
At 6 a.m., 10 people raided my house. They took all my devices. You can imagine how much I was scared. They are purposefully trying to pressure me to make them guilty. I can say that the court is trying to manipulate the girls, saying only what is beneficial to them. That due to lack of evidence, they are trying to extract any information against them.
I am not a victim. Beatrice is not a victim. There are no victims in this case, and there is no crime. The prosecution has no evidence to support their claims, and they will find no evidence that there is no truth to this allegation.
No, I've never been threatened. If I was ever threatened, I wouldn't be stupid enough to stay in that house.
Everything you're seeing in the news right now is all false accusations. He's always been respectful of me and others around him. I think the media is just portraying a really bad image of him right now, and it's not fair. I think it's a little concerning to see how easy it is for the media to sway people into believing lies and stuff that isn't true.
If this happens to them, I am worried this can happen to anyone at this point.
The racism accusation is tough to beat because there doesn't even need to be a victim. You have to prove what's going on in your own mind. It is also less serious a claim than claims about rape. However, when there's an accusation about rape, there has to be a real victim saying they got raped. Now, anytime this type of smear is used, they need some crazy retard to play the role of the victim. Someone dumb enough to believe the bull themselves, some type of Stormy Daniels, or E. Jean Carroll, who named her cat Vagina and said on CNN she thought rape was sexy. In the Tate's case, this bottom feeder is named Emma Gabby, a self-admitted pathological liar, a runaway, and professional sugar baby.
Again, out to all of her friends, I need to open up and tell you all something because I owe it to you, the people I care about. You have each moved me so much in my life that I am able to do it. I have a problem. I am a pathological liar. My life started in Kazakhstan, where I grew up in a loveless orphanage. We were picked up facing away from the caretakers, so we never developed love. I never learned how to hug, smile, kiss, touch, or be close to anybody. I was adopted by incredible people named Mona and Bill, who saved me from a life of abuse. I had a beautiful childhood because of them. When I was 11 or 12, I began to dissociate and resent them. I felt unwanted and like I had no family, so I began to rebel, doing drugs and meeting lots of different people.
And it's this fish-faced, crooked-teeth hoe where it all started. In addition to the Tates, she's also being sued by 2 other men.
Who is Emma Gabby? Allegations and history surrounding the case. Emma Gabby is at the center of the case involving the Tate brothers. She is a 23-year-old from Kazakhstan with a history of accusing men of various wrongdoings. Prior to meeting the Tates, she had been involved in sex work and was active on adult websites. The case against the Tates has sparked controversy, as some believe Gabby is an innocent victim, while others see a pattern of manipulative behavior. She has been involved in past legal disputes, including one where a man was sentenced to 24 years in prison for having a sexual relationship with her while she was a minor. Several men, including Marlon Fisher and Tyler Hensel, are also suing Gabby for various allegations, claiming she used manipulative tactics to deceive them. During her visit to Romania, where she stayed with the Tates, Gabby had her passport and phone at all times, and she was free to come and go as she pleased.
In the case of Fisher, she admitted that she lied to the court about him.
Training her. I'm incredibly sorry that what I said encapsulated a completely false narrative, especially that paints you as a terrible person because you aren't. You never deserve to be treated that way. Nobody does. None of it was okay. Absolutely none of it. If there is anything you can think of that I can do to prove that I understand that and truly am repentant.
This is the girl who thought she and another girl deserved an Oscar after giving their kidnapping story to her boyfriend, who then contacted the U.S. Embassy about the Tate brothers. How did she escape Romania? Easy. she used her phone to buy a plane ticket and then used her passport to leave like any person normally travels because she was not kidnapped. In fact, she didn't go home. She took a vacation to London and then France. This gold-digging Del Rey bitch slut bounces from one sugar daddy to the next, crying rape, knowing it will destroy the man's life and that there will be no consequences for her. Tates were part of a witch hunt and possibly a setup because of their anti-establishment political views and massive reach. The Matrix was starving for a pretext.
Gabby had her passport and phone at all times, and she was free to come and go as she pleased. She had expressed interest in moving to Romania and continuing a romantic relationship with one of the Tates. However, her expectations did not align with the reality, leading to her dissatisfaction and attempts to exploit and defraud the brothers. Gabby was involved in a conspiracy with another woman, Untilia, to falsely accuse the Tates of human trafficking. However, their scheme was unsuccessful, and Gabby's manipulative behavior came to light in text messages and communications with others. The case involves 4 women in total, with 2 supporting the Tates and stating they did not witness any human trafficking. The Tate side claims they were helpful, and there is evidence to suggest that Gabby's allegations were false. It's important to consider all the facts and evidence before forming judgments, as this case involves complex and sensitive issues. The legal proceedings and court records are available online for those interested in learning more about the case.
In an unprecedented interview, the two agreed to sit with false producers and discuss their experience.
When the raid happened, I was out of surgery. I had a surgery a couple of days before the first raid in April last year. And I was down. Beatrice, she was cleaning the first floor. Aliona and Emma, they were also sitting at the table. And at a point, I remember Aliona went up and I also went up because I felt bad. The surgery was a pretty hard surgery. And suddenly I heard...
Înainte ca percheziția să se întâmple în casa noastră, totul era perfect. Era casa unde tu o puteai numi familie, unde te simțeai bine, unde totul era perfect.
There is a difference between what they said their motivation was on coming to Romania and what the actual reason. I personally think that this whole scenario, this was a scenario long before it happened. It was made long before it happened. They were talking about it, and that there is proof and evidence. We have their conversations. You can see them online as well. You have their conversation planning this whole thing.
Niciodată nu s-a pus problema ca cineva să nu aibă voie să iasă din casă sau să fie încuiat în cameră, în cazul în care puteau să iasă și prin garaj, puteau să iasă și prin grădină și ușa tot timpul era deschisă.
Before it all happened, everything was normal. Everything was fine. We were living a good life. Everyone was happy. And then when the whole thing started, everything came as a shock. So basically, Andrew and Tristan have always been very helpful, very kind, very good people. And they've always went out and like, oh, I can help you. I can do this for you. Do you need anything? I will make sure that you will be fine. Let me help you. And what happened was that there are these 2 girls. Everyone knows about already, Moldovan from UK, and this Moldovan girl, she had a lot of problems. Let's just say she was dealing with a lot. And they offered to help her through it, and that's how I met her. She was very kind and very nice at first. And then slowly she started showing some signs, some red flags.
Înainte să îi cunosc pe frații, pe Andrew și pe Tristan Tate, am lucrat ca și producător de emisiuni la o mare televiziune din România. Am renunțat la a fi producător de emisiune și am început să lucrez pe social media.
I first started working as a manager and as a skin therapist over in Norway, where me and some friends, we kind of opened like a skincare company, and it was very fun, but at a point it became too much. It was very stressful, and that's when I decided to go back to Romania, where I focused mostly on working with social media. It's really nice being a leader and deciding, having my own life, being able to make my own choices of what I want to do, when I want to do it, and who I want to do it with.
Tot ceea ce s-a spus în mediul online a fost fals. Niciodată ei nu s-au comportat în vreun mod urât sau jignitor cu cele două, respectiv Aliona și Emma. Am fost mai mult prietenă cu Aliona decât cu Emma și de fiecare dată când Aliona m-a rugat un lucru, mereu am ajutat-o. Chiar am filmări pe telefon când eu mergeam cu Aliona la mall și mergeam la restaurant și mergeam să ne cumpărăm haine. Deci de aici se poate înțelege că niciodată ele nu au fost puse în ipostaza de a fi sechestrate sau atât.
Emma, I personally met her at Andrew and Tristan's home. We don't live far from each other, so obviously we are like family. Every time they were coming back to Romania from traveling or business, we will meet. And this girl, Emma, was there, and I met her personally, and she told me how she wanted to follow her dreams and make music. She was the one that told me that she asked Tristan for help. She wanted to come to Romania to follow her dream, to have her own path, make her own mistakes and own choices. And I was like, oh, this is a cool girl, you know? And then I personally offered to help her as well. I told her, you know what, if you really want this help, and if you really want to follow your dream, you're new in Romania. You don't know the city, you don't know the country, you don't know anything here. Come live with me. I offered her. I told her, come live with me for a couple of months until you get a job, until you start doing your music and you can rent your own apartment, and we will take it from there. But it wasn't long after that, and the bad things started happening.
Her checkered past has been covered by others already, Solomane, Censored Man, Fresh and Fit, and others, but was probably most concisely laid out by Candace Owens. It all started when this leg spreader went to Romania while she had a boyfriend in the United States. She was stupid enough to document her adventure on her social media. He saw where she was and he called her. He told her to leave the Tate's house. She didn't want to. I can't. She was busy picking up pizza and enjoying a party. When he told her to leave, she said, "They won't let me." She said that she was held against her will. Surveillance video says otherwise. But he called the U.S. Embassy saying she had been kidnapped, despite her telling him not to do that 4 times. She was planning to go to London and didn't want anything to interfere with her trip. Well, police raided the home looking for an American girl like they had some dungeon with women chained to the floor. Interestingly, Emma had told the Tate haters that she had called her brother, not a boyfriend. Again, lying, covering for herself that she was cheating on a boyfriend. The problem with that story is that she doesn't have a brother, and even if she did, we already know it was the boyfriend who made the calls. Matthew Martelli. This girl lies about things that don't even matter. But that is what a compulsive liar does. There is horrible audio of her confessing guilt and apologizing over a boyfriend who killed himself. And also text messages of her admitting to another lover that she lied to the court about him. Have a listen to this sycophant.
Boy, incredible, but I just found out that I should be telling you this, but Dustin killed himself on Friday.
sorry for everything that she has done and says it's all her fault. But then she coldly is discussing how others have found out about Dustin already with one of her other lovers. She's trying to scrub things and oops, their relationship has already been found, and oh, they already found out about the one that suicided. By the way, no big deal. Then they go right back to talking about sex. It's sick and it won't end. They'll keep using that same play all day until there's a defense for it. And had it not been for Elon Musk clearing out Twitter, Tate's would have been blanket banned. It would have been very hard to get a Rumble going without a Twitter. They wouldn't have had a 7 million person on-ramp to feed into it with. People would not be able to defend them. They wouldn't be able to defend themselves because they're scrubbed on the rest of social media. So all the defamation is allowed to go everywhere, but the counterpoints to that is only on Twitter and Rumble. It's the only places it's allowed. And it seems to be continuing with Russell Brand. He's a hot item in the news now. I've yet to see evidence against him for that. We'll see. Each case is different. You should always look at specifics. But looking deeply into the Tate case, it's clear. You had a compulsive liar tell her boyfriend she'd been kidnapped and everything spun out of control. Her and all her co-conspirators should be sued into the poorhouse. There need to be consequences for women falsely accusing men of rape or trafficking or both. Free Top G.
If you ever get trial by television or guilt by accusation, that day, freedom dies. A court of law is the place where you deal with these matters.
Il en était fier, mais pourquoi vous riez? Non, ne le jugez pas. Vous qui ne connaissez pas les vertiges et le labeur. Vous êtes faussement heureux, vous troquez vos valeurs. Lui, il est tout mon monde et bien plus que ça. Seul je crie son nom quand vient le désarroi. Et puis tout s'effondre quand il n'est plus là. J'aimerais tellement lui dire, mais je n'ose pas. Lui qui me fait tourner dans